Suddenly, the world stopped.
COVID-19 does not discriminate.
Like corruption, everyone,
regardless of
Social status, economic class,
color,
creed,
religion.
pays. Corruption is deadly to development.
COVID-19 is deadly to human lives.
Corrupt persons exploit times of emergency response.
to act corruptly.
do not be tempted.
Don't enrich yourself with COVID-19 relief funds.
ICPC is watching.
If we can end COVID-19,
By sacrificing social contacts,
we can eradicate.
Corruption.
COVID-19 can be prevented.
Also,
Corruption can be prevented.
ICPC salutes all the people.
on the front lines,
Of COVID-19 fight.
we salute you too.
For saying no to corruption.
No to corruption.
No to corruption.
no to corruption.
No to corruption. No to corruption.
No to corruption.
No to corruption.
Good day, viewers. Thank you for joining us on Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am your host, Murna Barnabas Atiaim. We cannot deny the fact that in this coronavirus times, we've been pummeled on all sides with information on how to stop the spread of the virus and even on treatments and cures. Some of these information have been proven correct, especially on preventing the spread, while others on cures have been blatant falsehood. The lesson here is that with the right information, it is possible to stop the spread of COVID-19, while false information will complicate attempts to manage the pandemic. So too with the fight against corruption. Given false information or making false statements to anti-corruption agencies can seriously mar the anti-corruption effort through the dissipation of energy and misapplication of scant resources. On the other hand, with the right information, the cost of investigations and other turnaround time are greatly reduced, leading to immense successes in the anti-corruption campaign. On today's edition, a lawyer explains the importance of proper information in the fight against corruption and what ICPC's enabling law says about giving false information and making false statements to operatives of the Commission during investigations. We will also bring you drama, ethics and value. But first, let us join Ruth Awadi as she brings us up to date on happenings in the world of anti-corruption. Over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Murna. Welcome to this segment on anti-corruption stories. I am Ruth Awudi. Pursuant to its powers contained in Section 45, subsection 4, A to C of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000, ICPC has seized a multi-million naira property belonging to the Bauchi State Governor, Senator Bala Mohammed, formerly Minister of the Federal Capital Territory. The property, which houses Zenaria International School, is located at Plot 298 Wuye District, Cadastral Zone B3 FCT, Abuja. ICPC's intelligence-led investigation revealed that Senator Mohammed, in his official capacity as the FCT minister, had allocated the said property to a school that had himself and family members as directors and shareholders, despite an existing right of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture over the land. To this end, the Commission will issue notices of seizure and shall cause them to be served on the appropriate land registry, ministry and department where the property is situated as required by law. Senator Mohammed had earlier been charged for using his office to confer corrupt advantage upon himself and relations under Section 19 of ICPC law, but could not be arraigned before he was sworn in as governor of Bauchi State. In view of the provisions of Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, the charge, which was pending before Honorable Justice Senchi of FCT High Court 13 Jabi, was withdrawn by the Commission to forestall its being struck out by the court suo motu. Following the notice of seizure, the Commission will apply to the court for an order of forfeiture under Section 48 of the ICPC Act, in line with the federal government policy focusing on recovery of proceeds of crime pending when the tenure of the governor expires. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered the suspended Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, Ishaq Modibo Kawu, to defend his alleged involvement in the 2.5 billion naira digital switchover fraud. Kawu, the chief operating officer of the same company, Mr. Dipo Onifade, and the late chairman of Pinnacle Communications Limited, Mr. Lucky Omoluwa, were jointly charged before Justice Folashade Ogunbanjogiwa by ICPC for allegedly misapplying 2.5 billion naira seed grant released to MBC by the federal government for the DSO project. ICPC in a 12-count charge accused them of abuse of office, money laundering, and misleading a public officer with the intent to defraud the federal government. Kawu, through his counsel AU Mustafa SAN, had submitted before the court in February 2020 that he had no case to answer in the alleged fraud, praying the court to absolve him of the charge brought against him by ICPC. Justice Ogunbanjogiwa had fixed the ruling on the no-case submission by Kawu on 26 March 2020, but for the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to the closure of courts. The court, at the rescheduled sitting on the 3rd of June 2020, said that ICPC had established a prima facie against Kawu, Onifade, and Pinnacle Communications Limited, and ruled that they had a case to answer. However, Mr. Omoluwa was struck out from the charge after his counsel, Alex Izion, SAN, told the court of his death from heart failure in February this year. The trial judge, before adjourning the matter to 1st, 2nd, and 3rd July 2020, also granted the prayers of ICPC to amend the charge by removing the name of the late Omoluwa. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Murna. Stay safe and please stay with us.
Corruption not in my country. That was a very good business. Yeah. The furniture you brought was very perfect.
That's how we roll.
Let me do you receipts.
Yeah. How much of it again?
1 million naira.
Okay, write 2.5.
The deal was for 1 million naira now.
Okay, write 3 million. I'll give you 500.
Oh no, I don't do business like that now. Yeah.
Hey, that can give me back my check. Let me go look for someone that understand business.
Take.
Your loss.
It is only for incorruptible customers. What are you talking?
Now get out.
What kind of this?
You will just die.
You will die. That is the door. Now get out from here.
Rubbish.
Look, my people, make not really add money for original invoice price. That's not corruption. Say no. Not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Corruption not in my country.
If you're just joining us, this is Corruption Must Go. In an era when information can be spread fast, false information assumes a very potent danger. A time of fear and uncertainty like COVID-19 pandemic provides a fertile ground for misinformation to flourish. It is heartbreaking that some fraudsters now take advantage of this situation to defraud unsuspecting members of society. Mr. Ebenezer Shogunle of Legal Department tells us about some misinformation fraud schemes employed by these fraudsters. Stay with us.
We all know that in contemporary times, it is often said that the world is a global village because of the advent of technology, modern technology. Communication between people over distances becomes a lot easier. Now, along with that, we have witnessed a phenomenon that is generally referred to as fake news. People tend to use their various social media platforms to disseminate information about people and events that they have not taken the pains to verify. And sometimes they do so as well out of plain mischief. Now, it is easy to say or to just dismiss some of that information as fake news. But where the information is given to a public officer, especially in the performance of the duties of that public officer, and it is done with intention to mislead that public officer, or with knowledge that the information given to that public officer is untrue in any material particular, that constitutes a very grievous offense under the ICPC Act. And what are the instances where such can happen? We have seen situations where government and other public agencies, even private companies, have made funds available for the fight against COVID-19. Officers have been entrusted with huge resources, money, with vehicles, with materials, for the purposes of coordinating the fight against COVID-19. And we find some of those officers making false claims as to how they expended such resources. In some cases, they talk about going on surveillance or carrying out population surveys in a particular area over a time. And you find in reality, nothing like that was done. But they've collected and pocketed the allowances that were allocated for that exercise. And then they end up using false receipts and documentation to retire such allocation of resources to them. That is a very grievous offense under the ICPC Act. We also have instances where members of the public especially, for reasons best known to them, decide to take their pen and paper, decide to use their various social media handles, their Facebook, their Twitter, their WhatsApp, their Instagram, and all whatnot, to spread false allegations about public officers in terms of the performance of their duties. They make claims like they've diverted social money, or they've done this, or they've done that, when they know genuinely that some of that information which they are releasing to the public is untrue. And they do this sometimes merely to discredit effort of government, merely to discredit individuals in the performance of their official duties. The news I have for you is that this again constitutes a very grievous offense under the ICPC Act. In fact, specifically, Section 25(1) and 2 of the ICPC Act make it a punishable offense for anybody to give false information or any information that is intended to mislead a public officer in the performance of his duties, or that is untrue in any material particular, or again that is inconsistent with any other statement which he may have made to any other public officer. The punishment for this is the sum of 100,000 naira fine or imprisonment for 2 years, or both. So my advice to members of the public and to our viewers is that please, in these days of scarce resources, we should be circumspect in the kind of information we disseminate, because the effect of giving this kind of false information is that the small resources, the meager resources available to fight genuine cases of corruption, genuine reports of corruption, are otherwise diverted into chasing after frivolous reports, which at the end of the day will not benefit anybody.
ICPC salutes all the people at the front line of the COVID-19 fight. We also salute you for saying no to corruption and yes to integrity. Together, we shall overcome. Report acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22 55 4272. This message is from ICPC and NTA.
Giving false information or making false statements to the Commission often leads to a waste of resources and time. Hence, the need to discourage such acts cannot be overemphasized. Let us take a look at some of the cases handled by ICPC that have to do with the subject. Mr. Ebenezer Shogunle of Legal Department will take us through them.
Yes, a number of people have been charged to court for making false statements to ICPC officers. In fact, I recall one of the more recent cases was when the federal government whistleblower policy came into effect. So many people were eager to take advantage of that policy. And so at the slightest sign they see of what they think may be instances of people stashing money, without taking pains to be sure, they just write. And then in writing, even when you are not so sure, you may state it there that, yeah, look, I suspect or I think, but they write with a certain level of confidence that, yes, they are sure that this is what and what is here. I remember the case involving the former vice president in Kaduna. We got a report that there was money stashed somewhere in his house. This was investigated, and to our utter shock and embarrassment, it was found to be untrue. And this led to unnecessary embarrassment to the person of the former vice president. Of course, the individual that was involved was prosecuted. We have found many other instances where people come to ICPC to make statements, either as witnesses or as suspects, and they deliberately make false statements to ICPC officers, investigators. Now, what people should understand is this: we are a very seriously law-abiding law enforcement agency. When you come here, your rights are read to you. You are not obliged to make any statement at all. When questions are put to you and you do not want to, you are not obliged to make any statement at all. But if you must open your mouth to make a statement, then the law imposes an obligation on you that you tell the truth. So if you don't want to make a statement, you are free to say, I do not want to make a statement. or I insist on having my lawyer or whoever else present before I make a statement. Those are your rights under the law, and we always respect that. But when you choose to write, we don't torture people, we don't have any underground cells, we don't bear arms or ammunition to frighten anybody. We try to be as civil as possible. That is the orientation we have here. That is the training we have here. That is the policy that is strictly followed here at ICPC. And so we implore people, when you come here, please be as honest and as forthright as you can. Nobody will compel you to say what is not true. So don't go out of your way to make false or misleading statements, because that will also put you into bigger problems with the law.
For us to surmount this global pandemic and contain it, it is imperative to give the right information to the authorities concerned. Information like suspected patients, travel history, contacts, etc. when necessary. Similarly, it can be said that giving ICPC the right information will help a great deal in making the investigation and prosecution of corruption cases less cumbersome and demanding in terms of resources in order for us to rid this nation of this menace of corruption. And let us not forget that giving false information to the Commission will attract sanctions. That's our package on this week's edition. Remember to stay safe. See you again next week.